People who have survived an attempted murder, what is your story?
Silent scan.
Had a girl cut my brake lines on my car, didn't know until we checked the camera from the apartment complex. Luckily she cut straight through them vs slitting them. When I attempted to crank the car, the brake pedal went straight to the floor and I immediately knew something was wrong.
Silent scan.
Random dude shot me in the chest because he thought I was my drug dealer neighbor. My neighbor was 6'3" and black. I'm 5'11" and white. Joke's on him, all he got were a few cigarettes, some pocket change, and 35 years on an attempted second-degree homicide conviction.
Silent scan.
Not me, but my mother. Context: we were already independent, she lived alone with 2 dogs, and burglar break into in her house. He tried to torture her with small cuts with the knife he had. When she screamed, the dogs, 2 beautiful 80kg/160-pound Rottweilers, defended her. The delinquent was left with facial skin tearing, skull sinking, multiple fractures in one of the arms. We had to hire a specialized cleaning service to remove the smell of blood.
Silent scan.
My older sister tried to stab me with a large knife in an attempt to kill me on my 16th birthday. My mother grabbed the knife off her before it got my stomach and slammed her against the fridge and yelled at me to run. Last time I saw my older sister, she said, "I've gotten over it, and you should too. It's pathetic to hang on to it." She then told people it was self-defense because I tried to hurt her. I was literally eating my birthday breakfast. I didn't sleep properly for 2 years while she was in the house because she constantly tried to break into my room at night to slit my throat while I slept. I hate her.
Silent scan.
I feel like I'm very late to the party, but my uncle was attempted murdered by random and pure bad luck. He was living in a high-rise and some crackhead pressed every single buzzer. Someone let him in out of laziness/not caring/wanting the buzzer to stop. The crackhead proceeded to knock on every single door down the hallways and my uncle is the first to answer the door. The crackhead pulls out a pair of scissors and plunges them into his throat. The crackhead then nonchalantly walks out of the building and says to a passing couple, "You should probably call the police because I just murdered someone." He was picked up very quickly and my uncle survived for a year or 2 before his epilepsy killed him. Edit: in addition, it was a very small world as my uncle went to school with this crackhead 30 years earlier and knew his name to identify him. Not that there needed any more evidence in the case.
Silent scan.
I delivered a pizza to a house just outside of the city. On the way back, I stopped to help a car that pulled over in front of me with their hazard lights on. I pulled up beside them and thought it was weird that nobody rolled down a window or made any kind of contact with me for around 15 seconds. The passenger then jumped out of his side of the car yelling that they needed help as he made his way toward my car. I thought something was weird about this. As I started to pull away, before he could get to my passenger door, he began shooting at me. I ducked my head after the first shot entered through the back window and embedded in my passenger seat headrest. Another shot entered through the rear window, while the other 3 only hit the outside metal parts of my car. He missed altogether with another shot. I remember being sure I was about to die as he fired more shots at me. I was very surprised that it wasn't panicky, it was just like, "Oh, I guess this is it." Turns out it was a plot to rob me. The pizza was ordered, and the guys were stationed down the road to intercept me. They knew who I was, and they knew that I would be able to recognize them, as I had delivered a few orders to them before. The guy wasn't wearing anything to cover his identity, which leads me to believe that he would have shot and killed me if he would have made it inside my car. By the next morning they had all been arrested. The shooter was found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to 40 years in prison. He later appealed that sentencing because there was a word wrong in the jury instructions. He won the appeal and ended up being sentenced to 10 years and was released November of 2010 after 5 years. The remaining 5 years were to be served as parole/probation. He was arrested twice for parole/probation violation when he was only a couple months away from total freedom. I laughed. TL, doctor, some people tried to murder me for pizza money. They shot. They missed. They got caught. They did time, but not enough, then did more.
Silent scan.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to get even more awesome content. Come on, it just takes 1 second.
Silent scan.
My mom attempted to murder me and my sister when we were younger. She was going through a psychotic episode and pretty suicidal, and I said the wrong thing that set her off. She chased us down to the basement with a knife. We ran into my room and my sister hid in the closet while I tried to fight my mom off at the door. She was trying to push it open while I was trying to push it closed. It was a back and forth struggle until she put her hand in the door. I think she was trying to engage my non-violence because she thought I wouldn't shut the door on her hand, but I slammed the door over and over again until her fingers broke. Meanwhile, my dad, who was in the house, finally came downstairs to check in what was happening. Mind you, this all happened very fast and my dad has a habit of zoning out when my mom gets in her episodes. He ended up pulling her off of the door and my sister and I ran out of the house and jumped in our van. He drove around the corner and turned off the lights and we all ducked down in our seats to hide and stayed there until my dad saw her drive our other car off.
Silent scan.
Neighbor stabbed me in the chest because I hit him over the head twice with a 10-pound weight to try to stop him stabbing his wife. However, I'm fat and the knife didn't go deep enough through my breast tissue to do any damages. Yay for being fat. He's still up for attempted murder though.
Silent scan.
Hopefully this counts. I live in an extremely rural area. My dad was super abusive. He did a lot of fucked up stuff like stomped my mom's head into a sidewalk when she was 5 months pregnant. Fast forward to when I was 8 years old, he decided to bring the girl he was cheating on my mom with to their house to beat my mom. My mother fled to our only neighbor's house to call the police because he cut the phone lines. He left to take his side chick home, so my mother went to get our important documents. He came back starting beating on mom again and said he was going to kill us for calling the cops, and they show up while he was getting his rifle. They arrested him for domestic violence and he got a slap on the wrist because my uncle, his brother, worked with police force as a dispatcher and made it all go away. My mom was completely broken down mentally from brainwashing for years and under heavy influence from his family that it was her fault and they should work it out. They ended up sweeping that under the rug and the fact that he raped me from 2Y7Y. Then after all the trauma mom went through, she went psycho and became an abuser for a long period of time until she tried to stab me to death for not washing dishes one night my senior year. I got away and put myself into debt to go to college to escape that. Years later she started to recover from what he did and I forgave her. I guess the silver lining was that I learned even the sweetest, kindest people can crack under the right circumstances. We may have survived that, but he absolutely destroyed our mental and physical health. Sometimes I wonder if it would have been better to die than to live with the aftermath. It's been hard.
Silent scan.
I'll try to make it short. In my high school, there were 6 kids who always used to bully me. Once we went to a camping in a forest. They dragged me into a remote location and beat me with whatever they got. I passed out soon. When I woke up, I was in an operation theater and unable to move. To be honest, I don't know whether the operation theater event was real or a dream. After the surgery, I was in coma for 3 weeks. I broke 9 bones, lost 2 toes and an eye. Took me months to get out of hospital and I also failed that grade. It took me years to forget that event. The worst part is that no action was taken against those kids as their parents were high-level officers in Air Force.
Silent scan.
I was 3 years old and went to this lady's house for swimming lessons. What my parents didn't know was that the lady hated boys. One day she threw me in the pool and left me to die. I sank to the bottom. I was under for several minutes. Somehow a teenager saw this, jumped the fence and rescued me. The ambulance came, and I was in ICU for a week. My parents never found out who the teenager was. The lady wasn't arrested. The cops told my parents that it would cost them money to take her to court. A lawyer read an article in the newspaper and decided to go after the lady, pro bono. She had several businesses involving kids. He was able to shut her down. She ended up as a waitress and eventually got cancer and died as a lovely parting gift. Growing up, I sometimes felt like I was drowning when taking a shower or in water. I've overcame this and eventually got a scuba license and still enjoy swimming.
Silent scan.
I had just bought a full sheet of acid. This was 20 years ago. Sorry FBI. And I went over to where my friend was living with a bunch of roommates to share the wealth. I knew most of the people he lived with, but there was one guy staying there who I hadn't met before. I basically handed out however many doses people were tough enough to take at once, including 3 or 4 hits to the new guy. We came to find out pretty quickly that new guy had never taken LSD before. Okay, no problem, he's at home, he's surrounded by people he knows, except me, he can just chill and have a good time. We wanted to watch a movie, so we landed on the Brady Bunch movie, which is trippy AF, BTW. Everything's going good, we all start peeking, and we are laughing and having a good time, and then, on the movie, the little girl Cindy is getting advice from her dad and says, "But I don't want to be a snitch." New guy stands up and draws "Is that what you think? You think I may fucking snitch?" We all try to calm him down, explain to him that it's a line from the movie. We even rewind the movie so he can watch that part again, but nothing is working. He's tripping too hard to reason with, and he's convinced that we are accusing him of being a snitch. Then he starts pacing back and forth, muttering, "This is the kind of shit that makes motherfuckers kill. This is the kind of shit that makes motherfuckers kill," over and over. Great. He zeroed in on me, I'm sure because he didn't know me, and he's still pacing back and forth and muttering, but now he's giving me a death glare while he does it. I'm getting pretty uncomfortable, obviously, and I'm also peaking from like 10 hits of acid, so my ability to cope with the situation is pretty low. I stand up because, well, there's a guy I don't know pacing around behind me muttering about killing people, and I don't want my back to this dude. This would be a really intense situation, even if I wasn't tripping balls, but the acid certainly doesn't help. Suddenly he pulls out a huge hunting knife, lunges at me, and tries to stab me. I dodged him, then he made another try, but by that time his friends had jumped up and were holding him back. He's struggling to break free and screaming, "You think I may fucking snitch? I'll fucking kill you," and I took the opportunity to bop right on out the door. I was about half a mile from my house, but it took me about 2 hours to find it because I was tripping so hard and I kept getting lost in my own neighborhood. Addendum, he was, in fact, a snitch, and the whole house got raided a few weeks later. A bunch of the guys who lived there got arrested for drugs, although my friend had moved out by that point, so luckily he wasn't one of them. TLDR, guy taking acid for the first time tried to stab me with a hunting knife because he thought Cindy from the Brady Bunch was accusing him of being a snitch. It turned out he was, in fact, a snitch.
Silent scan.
I was riding my bike on a back road through the woods when a vehicle pulled up next to me and a woman started yelling at me that I didn't belong on the road, then ran me off the road. It was a half mile to a place I could safely hide. I rode faster than I ever had. She missed me 4 more times. When it started, I turned on the video on my phone and put it back in my pocket. Between the audio and some Boy Scouts who witnessed it, they had enough to convict her of attempted manslaughter.
Silent scan.
Not me, but my dad and mom were traveling in Spain for vacation and someone hopped out of an alley with a knife and demanded my mom's purse. My dad stepped in front of her and was gutted before the guy took off. Still has a 8-inch scar up his belly. He never talks about it, and I've only heard him tell the story once.
Silent scan.
Congratulations, you reached the end of this awesome video. Now, like and subscribe, like we talked earlier, come on.
Silent scan.